Hey everybody, I'm Garcia, and today I'm taking a look at this abstract game for 2 or more players called Quatro Flash. Quatro Flash here is a pretty straightforward concept. In it, you have your own colored pieces. You'll be playing onto the board trying to get 4 in a row. If you manage to get 4 in a row without anyone else stopping you or doing it before you, then you win the whole thing. That's it. So, in many ways, this feels a little bit like a, Connect 4, but this is multiplayer, and obviously you're going to have a lot more freedom on the board. Let me show you what I'm talking about here, just give you a quick overview of how it plays. Come on back after that, I'll tell you what I think of it. Is it a good abstract game? Who is it for? Here we go. So here I'm going to be giving you a look at the multiplayer game. In this case, we're going to be playing a 4-player game, which is my favorite way to play a multiplayer without the advanced rules. And I'll talk about that a little bit later in the overview here. Each player is simply attempting to get 4 of their tokens in a line. And so that can include even something like this. But even more interesting than that, you can do 4 in a row at the same level, and that still counts. So what I mean by that is that if we have, say, other players below your pieces, and if I manage, let's say I'm the yellow player, to put out 4 yellow on the top second level there, that still counts, right? Now, if it was just this, that doesn't count because this one is 1 level lower than the other 3. But if we go ahead and push this forward, then this will count. If we do 1 on the first step, yellow on the second, yellow on the third, yellow on the fourth. So the staircase in this case. And that can be, rotated any which way. So this obviously would count as well. All right? So quite a few ways you can do it. And that's the basic scoring. There's one other style you can deal with for advanced. Not going to worry about that. I'll tell you about it later. So, knowing that part of the game really is the main learning part. Everything else is very straightforward, the actual play of the game itself. Because what you'll be doing is, on your turn, you take one of your pieces and you'll put it anywhere on the board. These have been closed off for a game for 4 players, just to make the board a little bit tighter. But I'll just go ahead and do that, and then the blue player can go anywhere they want, and they'll do that. The red player can go anywhere they want. Then green will go. They're going to play over here. Then yellow will go again. I'll go right there. Blue will jump in there and start blocking them off. Red will do that, try to be a little bit sneaky maybe. And then green might jump on top of that one. Yellow is going to go down here, and this is going to develop. And here's what happens with multiplayer, with the multiplayer version of the game that I wasn't really feeling with the 2-player version as much. The game develops this idea of, I'm not going to stop someone from winning. You deal with that on your turn. And it even specifies in the rule book that you cannot tell other people, hey, so-and-so is going to win. Stop them, right? And so what I mean by that is, if we're in this position here, okay, that's blue who just played, and let's say it's green's turn. Now, green could, maybe even should, stop blue from winning on their turn. But they could just hope or assume that yellow is going to stop them and do something useful themselves. And then it's on yellow. It's like, hey, you take care of it, right? Now, this is pretty good for yellow because it's got a spot there, so blue might jump in there, or blue, again, might just say, somebody else deal with that. I'm going to go do something good over here. And even red might say, yeah, I'm not dealing with it. Green, you deal with it. But again, this is all non-verbal. And I think that's really interesting, that it's almost a risk-reward thing. Do I just stop it now? And I guarantee that this person isn't going to win on their very next turn. Or do I hope the player after me saw that and just force him to deal with it while I make forward progress for myself? And so that's it. That's how you play the game. If you're playing with fewer players, if you're playing with 2 players, for example, you would each, there's a couple of variants, but you can each play 2 colors. And so one player will control 2 colors, the other player will control 2 colors. If you are playing with the full complement of 5 players, then these are not blocked off. If you play with 3, you could play with an even smaller board by another row. There's a lot of different sort of ways you can tackle this. And then the advanced rule, which, as I said, I personally don't like it. But it's in there if you want to try it, and they recommend, if you do want to give it a shot, that you've already played the game a little bit, is a new way to get 4 in a row, which is kind of a staggered pattern. And this is what I mean by that. If you can manage this, which blue is doing there, that also is 4 in a row. And you could even do this combined with the staircase, which I think is just incredibly difficult to spot on the board. And as I said, I prefer the game to be this sort of multiplayer, a little more easygoing kind of game where you take turns very quickly. I mean, you got to be observant, but you can take your turns a little bit more quickly. And so I think utilizing this rule, where blue would have just won, is asking too much of the players. All right, so that's basically it for the overview here of the game. Let's go back up top and let me tell you what I thought of it a little bit more. All right, so that is Quatro Flash. Let's talk about it. So we're going to start off with thematic ties. This game is an abstract game. No theme. It's fine, but it's not getting a positive here, obviously. The aesthetics of the game, artwork and components. The wooden pieces here are fantastic, especially the board. It's solid. It's well manufactured. It's incredible. The box is certainly not flashy. This company never does flashy games. They all look like this. It's kind of an acquired taste, and there's just not a whole lot to it. But I would say the components here are the pieces you play with make up for the packaging being uninspiring. So thumbs up there. Replayability, scalability. Now this is interesting. Usually when I do a review of an abstract game, there is no scalability. They are usually for 2 players. In this case, not only is this game for more than 2 players, but I prefer it with more than 2 players, because I think it's just more engaging, and it leads to an interesting vibe, an interesting gameplay experience than most 2-player abstract games. To the point that I would rather not play this with 2 when you have to do weird adjustments to play with 2. You know, I have 2 colors, you have 2 colors, I have to deal with keeping track of both. I don't like that in abstract games. With more players, this is where it's at, you know. And then as far as replayability goes, yeah, I think it's replayable. I think there's a nice amount of fun here to be had. And I think the players will evolve as they are playing. And you can always, of course, choose to add in those advanced rules that I myself don't like. I don't think I'm going to reuse them again. But they're there if you really get into it with the family and you want to open up that avenue, you know. I just, I'll talk about that when it comes to strategy, but I find it unnecessary. So game length, downtime, very good. Gameplay, taking a turn is very quick. And I think if you are playing with more players, then you can all sort of be policing what's going on, which means the turns do go a little bit more quickly, I think. It's unspoken. It's unspoken policing each other, but it works, you know. And I really do like that feeling, like I said in the overview, of having someone else deal with something that's an imminent threat. As long as they can, you know. I'm like passing the buck. I'm like, okay, I'm going to take care of me. You stop them from winning. Now, again, this is unspoken, so you got to trust that they're seeing what you're seeing, but it's a really interesting dynamic. Ease of play, which is fiddliness, iconography, weird design choices, anything like that. I think it's great. The only thing I don't like is that advanced 4 in a row, but they're splayed out, you know, weird 4 in a row. Everything else is extremely straightforward and well thought out. And I mean, it's if you've played any games, you probably know X in a row, you know, concepts anyway, and that's what it is. And then lastly, tactics and strategy and luck and randomness, all of that stuff. I think there's a nice amount here of tactics and strategy for a family kind of abstract game. And I think ultimately that's really where this one lives. I like a lot of abstract games. I like them to be thinky. I don't want them to be rules heavy. I like elegance in my abstract games. But one thing they are usually not is good for a family. Good for, you know, a couple of the older kids and mom and dad and that kind of unit playing an abstract game. This one is good for that. This one manages to appeal to that group, in my opinion, because it is breezy to play. and because of this, if you get the reference, this Kill Dr. Lucky vibe, where you need to stop someone from winning. They are clearly going to win, but you and another player go before that player is going to win, so you let them take care of it. And maybe they see it and they'll stop, and maybe you should have because they didn't spot it. And you, for not stopping it yourself, let that person win. I really like that. It's a rare thing in an abstract game. It's rare for them to be multiplayer anyway. So overall, yeah, I like this one. It's kind of for a different audience than it's a different group of people that I'm talking to, I think, than when I usually do an abstract game review. But that's nice because, yeah, this is kind of Connect 4 multiplayer with a little more going on. And I'm happy about that because a lot of people like Connect 4. And I think those people would really like this. It's a little more engaging. It's a little prettier. It's more interesting. And you can play with a group. So there you go. That's it for this one. Quatro Flash. I would recommend it. This one's going to get a seal of approval from me. Check it out. And I think you're going to have a good time with it. Introducing it to some friends and or family. I'm Z Garcia. I'll see you next time.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.